Good evening and welcome to the February 12th, 2026 Open Space Conservancy Trust Special Meeting. The time is now 5:02 p.m. I'm Hilary Atay, Chair of the Open Space Conservancy Trust. Tonight's Open Space Conservancy Trust meeting is being brought to you in person and by Zoom. The Zoom video of this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel later this week. Welcome to all, and thank you for joining us tonight. Trustees, please turn your microphones on for the roll call. Will city staff please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair. Jerry Poor.
Present.
Thomas Hildebrand.
Here.
Marie Bender. Carolyn Brissett.
Here.
Councilmember Andrew.
Here.
Hilary Atay.
Here.
Thank you, Chair.
I'd like to welcome back to the Trust Council Liaison, Lisa Andrel. Welcome back, Lisa.
Thank
Welcome.
you. I am thrilled to be back. This was one of my favorite assignments. So the new mayor smiled kindly on me.
I'm happy to have you back. City staff, is there anyone who has signed up for appearances that wishes to address the Trust?
No, Chair.
Thank you. We will move on to our first item of regular business. The first item of regular business is to approve the minutes from October 6th, 2025 regular meeting, November 12th, 2025, and January 8th, 2026 special hybrid joint PRC OSCT meetings. Trustees, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes as they appear in the packet.
Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion by Thomas Hildebrand and a second by Carolyn Brissett. Trustees, does anyone have any questions or comments before we vote? Well, I guess we already voted.
I don't think so. I would like to comment that I was present for the January 8th meeting, and as I read it, my name is missing. Although I did miss the November 12th meeting.
So noted, Trustee Poor. City staff will make that correction. Okay.
That was the only thing I saw. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want me to call the roll?
Oh, okay. Trustees, please turn on your microphones. Will the city staff please conduct a roll call vote? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Atay.
Here.
Vice Chair Brissett.
Are we saying if we're here or are we voting for the motion?
Voting for the
It says
motion?
roll call in my script.
Yeah.
It's a roll call vote.
Oh, it's a roll call vote.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
a roll call vote. Got it. Okay. Well, I'm in favor.
Okay.
Shall we
Trustee
vote upon the
Hildebrand?
minutes as amended?
Okay.
Trustee Poor.
I vote approval, perhaps abstaining from the meeting that I wasn't at, but approve the other two for sure.
Councilmember Andrew.
Yeah, I'm sure they're fine, but since I wasn't at any of them, I should probably abstain.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Here I. Okay. The motion passes and the minutes are approved. The next item on the agenda is the 2025 Annual Report to Council and 2026 Work Plan. We welcome Natural Resources Program Manager Lizzie Stone and Parks Operations Manager Sam Harb.
Hello, thank you. I am Lizzie Stone, the Natural Resources Program Manager with the City of Mercer Island, and I'm going to share my screen here and go over our annual report for council. So y'all have all seen this report already, but I did just want to walk through it. and talk about the different sections and highlight the main points in each of them. And then I'll open it up for any questions or suggestions that you have for this report. This will be presented to council, I believe, on the March 9th meeting. So first, we summarized the trustee appointments and the elections, as well as the different various meetings that we had in 2025, including the November special joint meeting with the Parks and Rec Commission. We did have elections and some different seats moving around, so we summarized that information here. Next section here, we discussed the natural resources program on the staff side. This natural resources program is the group that's tasked with managing forest restoration, tree risk mitigation, and trail construction and maintenance on trust properties. And as of the end of 2025, we had 5 staff working on the natural resources team. That is Sam Harb, myself, Lizzie Stone, Andrew Prince, the urban forestry program manager, our volunteer coordinator, Jordan Fisher, and our trails and restoration team leader, Jamie Bojess. We then went on to summarize the forest health and management of trust properties, which got into work that was done by professional contractors, by our seasonal natural resources crew of 3 folks, and by many, many volunteers. We, in 2025, worked on 34.5 acres of trust property. So to get into some more detail, we had professional contractors working on 33.5 of those 34.5 acres in Pioneer Park and Ingstrom open space. And as a reminder, in order to achieve our established goals for weed removal and planting on trust property, our contractors come out and they comprehensively remove all weeds from certain areas in a 3-year cycle, which means that they are working in the same area 3 years in a row. And then after that initial 3 years of removal, they come through and do maintenance on that same land every 4 to 5 years. So when I'm referring to years 1, 2, and 3 of comprehensive removal, that's what I'm talking about. So I put a little summary in there to help give that context. Also, ivy removal around trees, also known as ivy rings, and weedy tree treatment of laurel and holly and various other weedy tree species are also performed as part of that comprehensive removal and invasive removal maintenance cycle. In 2025, we had contractors carry out first-year comprehensive weed removal on 5.8 acres of Pioneer Park Northeast, and that included an area of about 2.3 acres of steep slope that led on the north edge of the northeast quadrant that led down into the ravine that has the water course that runs through the northeast quadrant and Ingstrom open space. That steep area is more technical and challenging weed removal and did require some erosion control to take place. So it was a bit slower going, but I'm glad that we've got it done. We also had the contractors carrying out second-year weed removal on 11 acres in Pioneer Park and third-year weed removal on 8.8 acres in Pioneer Park and 1.7 acres of Ingstrom open space. And then we did do maintenance and also in Ingstrom on 3.2 acres of land. In addition to all of that comprehensive weed removal, we did also have a contractor come through and do just ivy rings on 3 acres in Pioneer Park Northwest. And we did that in preparation to get that land ready to receive comprehensive removal, make it a bit more efficient to do that work in the future. Our volunteer program on trust property was again very robust in 2025. We, with the help of our wonderful volunteer program coordinator, Jordan, had regular engagement, education, and volunteer opportunities for the community on trust property. Jordan and forest stewards, the trained volunteers on the island, hosted 21 volunteer events and 13 separate educational events on trust property in 2025. And this led to a total of 328 volunteers coming out and dedicating 644 total volunteer hours to restoring the forest in Pioneer Park. These volunteers removed 24,000 square feet of ivy on the forest floor, and they planted 473 trees and shrubs. For the educational events, we had 121 participants. They did things like mindfulness walks. They came to plant ID walks, owl walks, bat nights, other things of that nature. And as of the end of 2025, we have 6 active forest stewards working in Pioneer Park. And I am seeing that I am missing a period at the end of Pioneer Park, and that is noted, and I will add that. The next group I wanted to talk about that was working on restoration in the park was our seasonal trails and restoration crew. In 2025, the crew did quite a bit in on trust property. The crew, we had a total of 3 crew members, one 9-month team leader, as well as 2 6-month seasonal positions. Those were somewhat staggered, so it ended up feeling like a longer season this year, but they managed to get a lot done despite having a staggered season. They focused a lot of their work on the perimeters of Pioneer Park, focusing a lot in the perimeter bordering Island Crest Way. The crew installed 330 native plants along the northeast border of Island Crest Way in the northeast quadrant. They spread a huge amount of mulch and also wildflower seed along that same Island Crest Way border. They watered hundreds of previous year's plantings from crews and also from volunteers. They did very thorough noxious weeds monitoring, mapping, and some treatment throughout trust properties. And they also supported a lot of volunteer events as was needed. Next, I get into talking about the forest health plan progress and sort of the benchmarks that we have laid out for our restoration and on trust property. Previously, we were following the benchmarks set out in the Pioneer Park Forest Health Plan to direct our restoration practices. And we have superseded those with the 2022 Parks Levy benchmarks that Parks Levy funding established goals for the work in order to accomplish it by the end of the levy term. In order to complete 3 years of comprehensive weed removal throughout Pioneer Park and Engstrom Open Space by the end of the levy, which is 2038, our natural resources program needs to average 6.5 new acres enrolled in first-year comprehensive removal every year. In addition to the follow-up 2nd and 3rd year treatments and the maintenance every 4 to 5 years after all of that. In 2025, we did make significant progress again towards these benchmarks. Our new acres enrolled was 5.8 acres of forest, which is slightly lower than the 6.5 acre goal, but this was our most technically complex area, one of the more technically complex areas in the park. So it makes sense that it did go a little bit slower and took a bit longer and didn't accomplish quite as much. We did that 2nd year removal on 11 acres. Our 3rd year removal on 10.5, which was completed by contractors and by volunteers, and then 3.2 acres of maintenance on the previously enrolled areas, and then in addition to all of that, we did do those ivy rings and planted quite a few native trees and shrubs. So that's a lot of numbers in a paragraph. We put in a table here to summarize what we have, what we accomplished towards those benchmarks. Our proposed benchmarks were 6.5 acres new area enrolled and 8.8 acres of year 3 removal, as well as averaging 3.4 acres of maintenance each year. Sorry. Excuse me. Went on to summarizing what we did with the letterboxing program in 2025. We continued this program by placing 5 letterboxes out in the northwest quadrant of Pioneer Park. These booklets were distributed at the community center as well as at Leap for Green, and then at volunteer events throughout the rest of the year. Overall, we passed out over 100 booklets throughout the season, and 35 of them were returned to the community center. Everyone who did complete their booklet and turn it back into the community center got a certificate and a little prize packet. So felt like a successful year for the letterboxing program. A summary of our leash policy education efforts. Our we did continue to do education in the form of distributing educational brochures. We stocked those brochure holders in the kiosks throughout trust property a few times throughout the year. These brochures provide park users with information about the voice signal control and locations of where you can have dogs off leash versus on leash. And we did hear from Mercer Island Police Department that in 2025, we received 2 complaints about off-leash dogs, 1 found dog, 1 dog that was hit and injured by an e-bike, and 1 report of a dog biting another dog. Moving on to a summary of the trails work that we did this year or last year. The Natural Resources seasonal crew did a lot of trails work in Pioneer Park and Ingstrom in 2025. They did some notable improvements to the trail system as well as a lot of maintenance. And some of those improvements include they installed check steps along the Salau Trail in the southeast quadrant. They added non-skid surfacing to many stairs in the northeast quadrant. They installed a railing along a staircase to encourage the use of those stairs. They added rock steps and some gravel to an uneven, rooty section in the northeast quadrant, and they installed a drain under part of the Dogwood Trail in the northwest quadrant. And all of this was in addition to the regular trail brushing, which some trails they are brushing more than once, 2 or 3 times a year. The leaf blowing and clearing culverts, as well as working with the park's maintenance team to remove any trees or branches that fall across the trails throughout the season. And we did also want to note that there was 1 donation bench that was installed by the park's maintenance team in the northeast quadrant. Wrapping up our reports on the Ingstrom open space title transfer early in 2025, we did finalize that. And just a reminder, back in September of 2022, council passed a resolution to direct the city to transfer the title of Ingstrom Open Space to the Open Space Conservancy Trust, and that paperwork was accepted by the trust and finalized by King County in early 2025. And then finally, a summary of our urban forestry work. We do have our urban forestry program manager who is regularly inspecting trees for safety throughout trust property. And in 2025, he contracted out the removal of 15 trees, mostly along Southeast 68th Street to reduce the risk of dead or dying trees falling across the road or across utility lines. And they do continue to monitor the park boundaries regularly for trees that are in need of removal or pruning. And that is what we discussed in this annual report. And I am happy to answer any questions that y'all have. Trustee Poor, go ahead.
Thank you. I found this delightful to read as I started off. I thought, oh, I hope she covers this. I hope she covers that. And sure enough, that got covered all the way through. So thank you. I did have one question that I don't know if we know the answer, and I don't know if it's appropriate to include in the report. But when you were talking about the leash policy education efforts, and you reported out on the police department findings, I wondered if you know how that is relative to other parks. Like, is Pioneer Park experiencing a similar amount of attention, dog reports relative to other parks or open spaces? Or is that an unanswerable question?
Sam Harb, Parks Operations Manager. We don't necessarily look at other parks as closely as Pioneer. Every year or a couple times a year, we'll check in with the police department because we have this standing item on the work plan, and we address it throughout the year. I would say it's probably pretty similar to other park properties or other city properties, but a lot of these situations are just handled by PD, so we don't necessarily keep track of it and quantify it from property to property. I would say similarly with e-bikes, you know, it's sort of not necessarily one location. It's like we see people using them across the park system, across the city.
Yeah, got it. Thanks. So overall, I was very delighted with the report. Thank you.
Yes, following up on that just a little bit, does the Parks Department receive comments about off-leash dogs and other misbehaving dogs directly, or would you just get that information from the police department?
Yeah, we do. Not very often. It kind of goes in cycles. I think around COVID, a lot more people were getting dogs, staying home, out in the parks, spending time, you know, more leisure time with dogs, and so maybe more busy in the park system. I think it's a little bit tricky because if you look through the pamphlet, it really varies from park to park, from property as far as what's allowed. For example, you know, we operate South Mercer playfields in collaboration with the school district. Technically, that property, no dogs are allowed at all. That's not always followed, so there are some, you know, enforcement actions there. Aubrey Davis Park, a lot of the open fields and whatnot, dogs can be allowed off leash under voice control, and that can just lead to more usage and more conflicts. So occasionally we do get some, you know, customer service type correspondences, and sometimes it's just sometimes there's follow-up actions involved with law enforcement, or it could be just education on letting customers know like what the guidelines are at all the properties and where they can do what. So, you know, Luther Burbank, dogs have to be on leash except in the dog area. So that's where it gets a little bit complicated, is sometimes folks don't quite know the differences between all the properties.
Yes, well, specific to Pioneer Park, if you were receiving a lot of complaints of a certain nature, that would be important to include in this kind of report. But I'll take it that you didn't have anything notable to put in that space this time.
Yeah, I think kind of before my time, it seems like there was maybe more of an issue, and there was more effort by city staff to have you know, meetings and training on voice control and whatnot in Pioneer Park. That some of the things that I've heard of our education efforts, but it's been pretty quiet.
Okay, thank you.
I can't see if we have any more questions because I can only see Jerry's face.
Oh, yeah, my hand's up.
Lisa.
Yeah, hey, so just a comment and a question. One is that council does receive direct complaints as well. We just got one, fairly heated one, from a resident on 63rd, I think, saying that there's a large dog that is consistently leaping out of the park over her fence and into her yard and trashing her garden bed. And I will probably encourage her to call the MIPD the next time that happens. But the remedy that she's seeking is, of course, that we revoke the off-leash privileges 100%. So, and frankly, I'm not wading into that fray. But I can, as we go through the cycle of meetings this year, if we get complaints about that or other comments about Pioneer Park, I can kind of catalog those and give a short summary. If that's helpful. If stuff comes to only the council mailbox, then you guys don't have any other way of knowing about it.
Yes, we would like to hear about that.
Thank you.
All right, I'll do that. And then the question I had is the first year clearing of that you were talking about. The goal is like 6.5 acres per year, and I understand that some areas are more challenging than others. But do you have an average man hours or person hours, as it were, to clear an acre? I'm just kind of wondering what kind of level of effort that is. And if you don't know that off the top of your head, it's not a big deal. It's just a question that popped into my head as you were doing the presentation.
This is Lizzie Stone, the Natural Resources Program Manager again. And we do have that data, and I don't know it off the top of my head. I am happy to do some quick math and come up with some numbers.
Oh, yeah, if you wouldn't mind shooting us that info in an email, I think it's useful. It's especially useful when we're talking to citizens about how we're using the park levy money.
Well, I might have something to add to that later when I give a volunteer update across the park system, but I think for like 2025 numbers, I want to say maybe it was around an acre of land that was cleared by volunteers, which is kind of a slower process, but that's one metric, I suppose.
I can't see if Carolyn has anything to ask. Nope. Okay. Great. Thank you. And so I think now, again, we welcome Lizzie Stone to talk about the 2026 work plan, or is that you, Sam? Okay.
All right, Sam Harb, Parks Operations Manager, will be walking through our 2026 draft work plan. So starting with this meeting, we're going over the annual report to council and the work plan. We develop a list of topics for the year. And then we will submit that, the report and the work plan to council in a March meeting. Quadrant reports, this is an ongoing item that we will have at every meeting where trustees can report on the condition of certain quadrants that they're assigned. Moving into the April work plan, we've got a lot on there, including the trails work plan, where we'll report to the intended maintenance activities and recap work completed, and include things like recently decommissioned social trails on trust properties. And we will also be doing the restoration work plan that will go over our planned activities and recap work. And then we'll be doing an update on the e-bike policy. So thank you everyone who participated and helped out with the last two meetings talking about e-bike regulations in parks. After our last meeting, staff reconvened and took feedback that we will be starting a community engagement process. So we're working on that right now, and it will probably go through this spring and summer, in which we'll have some surveys and also a couple opportunities to meet with the community and, you know, table events and things like that, and just encourage participation of gathering information with our surveys. So we're still figuring out next steps on that, and we will have an update, whether myself or Amelia from the last meetings might be joining us and giving an update on how that's going to move forward. At some point, we may do another joint meeting or series of joint meetings. So I'll keep you updated on that, and then we will try to work with Trust and the Parks and Rec Commission to find suitable time for that. Although it could take place, you know, after the public engagement process. And then our standing item for the off-leash dogs, we'll evaluate the success of education measures over the past year and discuss possible changes. So that could be a good opportunity to go over some of the feedback or some of the instances that were listed in the annual work plan, as well as any other comments that we have from trustees, council, public, that sort of thing. Moving into our July meeting, we have our election of officers, herbicide application report, and then we'll follow back up on the signage inventory and update. We started that discussion in, I believe it was the October meeting, so we'll have some more information on that and also take feedback on any changes that might be needed or suggestions for the properties. And moving into the October meeting, we've got, we'll do an update on the 2024 Forest Health Assessment, and we will line out our schedule for 2027, as well as any scout projects that took place on trust properties.
Okay, do we have any questions about the draft work plan for the year? I don't know if we have any virtual hands. No? Okay. Trustees, may I have a motion to approve the 2025 annual report and 2026 draft work plan?
So moved.
Second,
Oh, who was the second?
That was-
Lisa.
Oh, Lisa, okay. There is a motion by trustee Hildebrand and a second by council liaison Andrew. Thank you. Okay. Trustees, does anyone have any questions or comments before we vote? Doesn't look like it. Trustees, please turn on your microphone. Will the city staff please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you, Chair. Trustee Hildebrandt,
Aye.
Councilmember Andrew,
Aye.
Trustee Poor,
Aye.
Chair Atay,
Aye.
Vice Chair Brissette.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair.
The motion passes. In other business, we welcome Sam Harb to present on department and city updates.
Okay, department report for February 12th, 2026. Unfortunately, in October, we did have a vehicle collision which caused some damage at Aubrey Davis Park at the Gateway installation, which is on 77th and Sunset Highway, just across from the Chevron there. We had 4 of these metal sculptures that were damaged, as well as the concrete wall. The sculptures have been removed, and we have an art restoration company that will be repairing them. And the concrete wall, the concrete will be repaired. We have a contractor on board, and that will probably be finished this month. And we do have an insurance claim to get compensation for this damage. So once restoration is underway, we'll coordinate with the Arts Council, because this may not be an ideal location for these art pieces. They've been damaged before, so might find a more suitable location for those. Clark and Groveland infrastructure plan is ongoing. There was a city staff and consultant had a meeting in December to evaluate 182 responses from the public, and concepts are being refined into preferred plans, and it will be shared with the Parks and Rec Commission in March. Youth engagement is ongoing. Staff presented to Islander Middle School in December, and students provided input that will be incorporated into the preferred plans to include opportunities for youth and teen collaboration. First Hill Park Playground was open last month, so that's been completed. Some of the features include a tower with 2 slides, swings, a log tunnel, mushroom steps, and acorn seats, and it is suitable for ages 2 to 12, and also engineered wood fiber surfacing and a little bit of board in place surfacing as well. So that's completed. Have a lot of good feedback on it. It smells great because of all the new cedar chips, and it's really fun. I think the tower feature is now our tallest feature in the parks. Maintenance updates. So unfortunately, the Mercer Island boat launch is closed right now. The flooding events in December led to a lot of log material washing out of the Cedar River and into Lake Washington. So in collaboration with Marine Patrol, we've been helping clear the lake and utilizing the boat ramp as a collection site and staging area. We've been working on this project for about a month and a half now with Marine Patrol, and that picture of the boat launch has actually been cleaned up quite a bit. We've got almost all the original debris hauled out, which was like 20 large dumpsters, like almost the size of a small shipping container. And we've estimated about 800 cubic yards of material have been removed. And I think just on the parks maintenance crew, I think we have 190 working hours into this cleanup. So it is ongoing, and there's also some because of the ongoing removal and blockage of the boat ramp, as well as some of the underwater concrete at the boat ramp. It is closed temporarily, and hopefully we can get things squared away for the spring season and boating season.
Quick question, if I could interrupt. Are we getting any complaints about this? Because I was unaware that it was closed and nobody is emailing council on it. So is it just a perfect time of the year for this to happen, or are there other facilities where people can launch on the island?
Not public facilities. So it's a pretty new event. It was, I think it was in a newsletter. I'm not sure if it was shared in one of the council emails or not, but we can publicize it a little bit more. It's pretty day to day right now and week to week. So there's a couple things we have to do to sort of make the boat ramp usable and safe, but we do have a VMS board at the boat ramp, as well as we have a new pay system this year that for people that are either buying like an annual pass or a day pass to park down there, we have it updated on that so that people won't pay to park there or use it. And then we have information on our website about it. But it is the slow season. There are some folks that use it in the winter, but it's definitely ideal because it is, not the main boating season. But we're doing everything we can to try to get a game plan to get it reopened again. I think it's hard to say how long the removal will continue because I'm not out on the lake and stuff, but we are working collaboratively with Marine Patrol. And what may happen is maybe some scheduled times to have it closed and something like that. So it's dynamic and it's ongoing, but we're working on it to get it back open and safe for everybody.
I have seen information about it on the city's Instagram account. If that's helpful at all. So it's getting out that way.
Great.
Yeah, thankfully we haven't had too many complaints, but like I said, it's winter time, but it's right around the corner of boating season. Luther Burbank restroom was recently closed due to a water leak under the concrete pathway. This has since been repaired and the restroom is back in service. We're doing a lot of planning and physical work in the parks, preparing for the sports season. We've got high school sports right around the corner, little league, just tons of youth sports, baseball, softball, soccer, lacrosse, everything. And so we've been working, Parks and Rec, working together and collaborating on ways to maximize access and also balance the maintenance needs of all that usage. And then maintenance updates continued. We recently partnered with Fish and Wildlife to install monofilament fishing line disposal tubes at several locations. So I believe we have them at Clark, Groveland, Luther, and maybe the boat launch water access sites where people can dispose of that fishing line because it can just get nasty to, be out in the environment. So it will be interesting to see the results of that because working with Fish and Wildlife, we'll actually be keeping track of how much we're collecting and giving them that information. One of our winter projects has been working on updating a lot of water fountains in the park system. So we'll have several across the park system that will have been replaced, as well as I think one new one that's being installed at Island Crest Park right now near the tennis courts. And then our trails and restoration crew recently replaced the trail signage that we discussed last year, the trail yield signs in Pioneer Park Southeast Quadrant. and they're close to completing a citywide update of our trails inventory, which helps plan future work. And then we have a cool 2025 volunteer year in review. So last year, 2025, we had 74 events across 15 parks. We hosted over 1,000 volunteers for over 2,000 hours, and that removed 44,000 square feet of weeds, which is just over an acre, I think.
Yes, an acre is 42,000 square feet.
Yeah. And spread 54 cubic yards of mulch as well, and then planted over 1,000 native trees and shrubs. So it's really exciting to see our volunteer program continue to grow. And thank you to all of our volunteers, as well as our staff and the volunteer forest stewards as well, that keep that program going. And moving into some volunteer events for the next month, and pictured on the right is our new volunteer tool trailer. So after many years, we have replaced our old tired trailer that was leaking and undersized. And we have our new trailer built out, and it's very efficient to be able to haul tools and equipment and safety supplies and whatnot to different locations around the parks, so that we can get folks out doing the hard work. We also had help with, I believe, an Eagle Scout to build out the shelving, tool organization system inside the trailer. And it's all very tidy. So that's great for us. And so over the next month, we've got on the 19th, Pioneer Park, 21st, Clark Beach volunteer events, 7th, back to Pioneer Park, and then the 12th, March 12th, Luther Burbank Native Plant Nursery, and then March 14th, back to Pioneer Park. So keep an eye on the city calendar for those updates and how to register. And then just recapping our schedule for the year, our next meeting is in April 16th, and then July 16th and October 15th. And that will wrap up my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. I did have one question. It's a little nitpicky, but on the slide where you were talking about youth engagement for Groveland and Clark Beaches, you had talked about how there was outreach to the middle schoolers, and I was wondering if the same was planned for engaging the high school students, because I know it's a very popular beach hangout spot in the summertime.
I could follow up on that detail.
Okay.
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Great.
Yeah, also on the subject of public engagement, when the process is determined for the e-bikes public engagement, I'd appreciate being on the mailing list for that. And probably the other board members would also like to be pinged.
Yeah, Open Space Board and Parks and Rec Commission will be kept in the loop on all of our next steps on that.
Great, thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Sam? Doesn't look like we do. Thank you so much, Sam. Next up, we have quadrant reports. Trustees, please report on any observations from your assigned quadrants. So in the Northwest, we have Carolyn. Can't hear you. You're muted, Carolyn.
I said I continue to marvel at the progress that's being made. It's it's so much safer now that there's some gravel and there's handrails and there's steps that have been added and so on. I mean, it's very noticeable, and I'm really looking forward to spring now, because there've been a number of plantings that have gone on in the fall.
Thank you. Jerry, do you have any observations about the Northeast that you'd like to share?
No, I would add that it's been delightful to go out. There's been, as we all are aware, not so much rain, so it's useful. The trails haven't been too muddy. I did walk from where I live to the Northeast quadrant and run through the not run, but in the southeast quadrant, I wrote in and asked if anything could be done about some lowlands that created a puddle that went the full width of the trail, and it looks like that was acted on. So appreciate that work in the southeast quadrant, and things were good in the northeast.
Yeah, I was recently in the Northeast and things were looking great. I did want to just commend whomever the stewards are in the Northeast working on the Ivy. I know there were some crews doing work there, like kind of on the way to the ravine, but closer to the perimeter trail along 68th, there were some really nice piles of ivy going on. So it was really great to see that. I also noted when I was there for an Audubon volunteer event that social trail that we decommissioned by the donation bench is looking excellent. So I'm really glad that we did that. Okay. Tom, do you have any feedback on Southeast?
I haven't actually been in the Southeast Quad, but I visit the Northwest Quad fairly frequently, and I'd like to note that there was a snag which was felled by high winds about 2 weeks ago that fell across the North Trail in that quadrant, and it was cleared away promptly. So that's very good.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Now we arrive to topics for future discussion. This is our standing item for bringing forward topics that trustees feel should be added for future discussion. Do we have any topics or suggestions that people would like to share? Okay, doesn't look like we do. All right, the next open space meeting is a regular meeting on April 16th, 2026. There being no other business to come before the Open Space Conservancy Trust, the time now is 5:49 p.m. and the meeting is adjourned. Trustees, please stay seated until city staff has terminated the Zoom broadcast. Good evening and thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Night, everyone.